The Index, located smack dab in the middle of Neptune, is a fun little endgame capitalism show hosted by Cephalon Claptrap. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say fun? Did I say fun? Did I say fun? When you launch the mission, you choose the wager, and at the end of each round, you can choose to continue with another of the same wager. If you lose the round, however, you will actually lose those credits forever, so it's kind of a risk. Also, there's some pretty cool mods you can get as rewards here too. At low risk, you must score 50 points, 75 points at medium risk, and 100 points at high risk. Killing an enemy will drop a point, plus any other points they were holding. The goal of this game mode is to bank points you get from killing enemies at these goalpost looking things, with each bank increasing your score and your time. If the enemies score points, however, they will decrease your time and increase their points. Whoever gets to the target score first wins. So make sure you don't let the enemies win.
This is a risky transaction. Points in the open. Trading over.
Don't worry, Channel. I'll put these credits to excellent use.
Holding multiple points will inflict financial stress on you, which is increased with more points you have, maxing out at 20 points held. Financial stress will lower your max health and shields and drain your energy constantly, but give you a damage buff. You will also gain bonus points up to 10, so yeah, it's pretty risky. The smart thing to do is bank your points as soon as you get them, but if you're pretty tanky and got the handle on not dying when you can't use your abilities, then go ahead and hoard more. Okay, so the builds. For solo, it's best to pick a tanky-ass Warframe. And since the index is relatively inactive at the moment, it's probably best to use your solo builds when you're not playing with friends. Rhino and Inaros are basically the best frames you can choose for this, especially Inaros since he's pretty unkillable and you don't need to use his abilities to live. Here's the Rhino build, basically focused on maxing iron skin. The augment helps here sometimes because when you're on low armor, it's just not good to risk jumping into a group of enemies. So doing a refresh when you're safe seems pretty necessary. I have enemy radar added here because the index is such a small map, it makes it a good idea to track enemies for faster kills. And here's the Inaros build, basically focused solely on beefing him up. Enemy radars there again for tracking enemies on a small map, and a little bit of parkour for some evasiveness. For big brain squad builds, preferably with all 4 of you in a voice call actually able to scream at each other's asses, best to go with at least 1 tank like Inaros or Rhino, at least 1 DPS like Mesa, Ash, Excalibur, Mirage, Wukong, Zaku, or Titania, and a support frame like Trinity, Hildren, Oberon, Wisp, Nova, Vauban, or Hero. I know that's a lot I've thrown out as examples, but it really depends on your playstyles for who you want to pick really. Ideally, the DPS frames will be in charge of just massacring enemies for the squad. The tanks will be in charge of carrying all these points and banking them. And the support will do their support thing, or CC. My dream squad build for this would be Inaros as just a points carrier, Excalibur, and yeah, he can pick some points here and there too, Nova for the massive slowdowns and overall weakening of all the enemies, and Mesa to delete everything in sight. In general, the tank frames build would be focused on survival like the Inaros or Rhino build I showed earlier. The DPS frames would be built around maximum DPS and they're allowed to rely on their abilities for survival since they're not picking up points. And the support frames would try to cover everyone's asses as best as they can. Here's my Mesa build for this, relying on the second and third ability for survival. You can replace her first ability with whatever you want, I'm just not sure what to use myself. Here's her regulators, I'll be going over the weapon builds in a bit. Here's a Nova build that'll be great crowd control for your squad. Max you can slow down enemies is by 75%, so don't pump more power strength than that. Power duration is what extends your 4th ability as far as it can. Okay, now let's go over weapons. The corpus in the arena are all shielded and most of them have alloy armor. So, if you watched my damage video, you'll know the best damage types against these would be magnetic and radiation. There's a bunch of humans in there too, so let's add viral in the mix. You can riddle these guys with status effects too, which helps a bunch. My top picks for a primary weapon are the Kuva Comb. Mine has innate magnetic on it, plus I've modded radiation and viral and brought the status chance to 250%. And this thing just absolutely melts Corpus. So yeah, any Kuva or Tenet weapon with innate magnetic damage plus radiation and viral modding is the best you can do here. Other than that, the Opticore or the Opticore Vandal's pretty good. Here's the build I use. I've mostly focused it on crits and radiation damage and it gets the job done. Strun Prime's also pretty good here. I got a good status slag build going on here. And the Tigress Prime's still fairly usable after its nerf if that's all you got. I don't recommend using the lens or the Kuva Brahma for this because the enemies in the index do not drop ammo on death, so you're gonna run out of ammo pretty quickly with these. For secondary weapon, I've seen a lot of people use the Catch Moon with a good crit build, but having a ribbon seems pretty necessary for it, and I haven't really managed to find much love for this. The Mara Detron or the Tenet Detron's pretty epic since it's got innate radiation damage. Kuva Nucor's also pretty good, here's my build for it. And the Euphona Prime's also pretty good with the crit build. And for melee, I love using the Prisma Obex. I can give it a ridiculous number of statuses to inflict on enemies and synergize that with Condition Overload. Otherwise, using any melee is good if you can put either a high status chance and Condition Overload build on it, or a pretty beefy combo crit build. Here's my Fragor Prime as a crit and combo build example. Pets can't come with you to the index, so forget about those. Neither can Archguns or Necromechs. Big sad. A couple of tips for the index. Make sure you have the player list on so you can keep track of your allies when they die, and be ready to avenge them and suck up their points. Having the overlay map on helps when you have enemy radar. Oh, and these fuckers can disguise as your teammates, so be sure to spy check every now and then. The index is currently the second fastest way to farm credits in Warframe, with the other one being the Profit Taker Orbs fight. You can watch my guide on it if you want, but this is easier than the Orb fight, I will say. Also, if you farm the index for over an hour, John Prodman will show up and challenge you. I've never actually fought him, and his poster is the only rare thing in the game I don't have at this point, other than Excalibur Prime. But who knows, maybe someday I will. And make sure you're subscribed just in case the day finally arrives. Maybe when I actually make friends, so never.